Horror Granny House. The autumn leaves crunched under Jason's boots as he stood before the decrepit old house. It was the kind of place that gave you goosebumps just by looking at it. The windows were dark and lifeless, like hollow eyes staring back at him. His friends had dared him to spend the night there, and Jason, never one to back down from a challenge, accepted without hesitation. The house had a reputation in the small town of Willows Creek. Locals whispered about Granny, the spirit of an old woman who supposedly haunted the place. The story went that Granny had lived alone for decades after her family mysteriously disappeared. One day, she vanished too, leaving behind a house filled with unanswered questions. People claimed to hear her rocking chair creaking in the dead of night or see her shadow moving through the windows. Jason pushed the creaky gate open, the rusty hinges groaning like a warning. His flashlight beam cut through the gathering dusk as he stepped onto the porch. The wooden planks creaked under his weight. He hesitated for a moment before pushing the door open. The inside was even creepier than he'd imagined. Cobwebs hung in thick drapes from the ceiling, and a musty smell filled the air. Old furniture was scattered about, covered in dust and decay. In the corner of the living room sat a rocking chair, swaying gently. Jason froze. The air felt heavy, almost oppressive, but he forced himself to move. He set his backpack down and took out a sleeping bag, a couple of snacks, and a portable charger. "It's just an old house," he muttered to himself, trying to shake off the eerie feeling. As the night deepened, Jason explored the house. Each creak of the floorboards seemed to echo louder than it should. The kitchen was cluttered with rusted utensils and chipped china. In one corner, an ancient oven sat eerily out of place, its metal surface marred with strange black stains. He opened a few drawers, finding nothing but dust and mouse droppings. He worked his way upstairs, where the air grew colder. The wallpaper peeled in long, jagged strips, and the faint smell of lavender hung in the air, as if someone had just been there. Jason entered a bedroom with an iron-framed bed and a vanity table. The mirror was cracked, and his flashlight reflected fragmented versions of his own face. A faint noise broke the silence, a creaking sound, like someone stepping on the floorboards. Jason froze, his breath caught in his throat. He turned off the flashlight and stood perfectly still. The noise came again, closer this time. His heart pounded as he fumbled to switch the light back on, casting the beam toward the doorway. Nothing. "Get a grip," he whispered, though his voice shook. He decided to go back downstairs, but as he turned, the rocking chair in the corner of the room began to move, its rhythmic creaking filling the air.
The eerie silence filled the air as he cautiously called out, his voice barely a whisper, hoping for a response. The chair rocked ominously, sending shivers down his spine, urging him to flee. With a pounding heart, he raced downstairs into the dimly lit living room, only to find the door he entered through sealed shut. Frantically pulling at the handle, his flashlight flickered and died, enveloping the room in darkness. A haunting melody drifted through the air, sending chills down his spine. Back pressed against the unyielding door, he turned to see a shadowy figure emerging, a decrepit old woman in a ragged dress. Her sunken eyes bore into his soul, her toothless grin sending a shiver down his spine. "Stay," she whispered, her voice like a ghostly whisper. Panic seizing him, he stumbled backward, the woman unmoving as the shadows seemed to come alive, reaching for him. Desperately clawing at the door, the room began to twist and contort, the temperature plummeting. The melodic humming grew louder, drowning out his thoughts as the woman drew closer. Paralyzed with fear, he felt invisible hands holding him in place, his voice failing him. As darkness closed in, her grin widened impossibly, her chilling words echoing, "Welcome home." The following day, his friends arrived at the abandoned house, the door ajar, but no sign of Jason. All that remained was his discarded flashlight on the dusty floor, and the faint echo of a rocking chair in the distance.